your host, Michael Cohen, with the Capital City Recap on More Compelling Talk Radio, 1320 WILS.
And we're back. Michael Cohen, this is 1320 WILS. Thank you for tuning in. My next guest says that all fear is imaginary. Gary Miller is the author of the book Go to War Against Fear and Doubt. Based here in Michigan, spent 50 years as a professional photographer. He's an educator, author, a life coach, motivational speaker. Gary, great to have you here.
Well, I'm excited. I feel it's an honor and a privilege to be with you and your listeners. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, well, I certainly want to share your story. Now your own childhood and stuff, from what I understand, it did not begin in a very easy way. Is that fair to say?
I mean, I started out very mediocre. I was afraid of everything. I couldn't read, write. I couldn't do math very well. I was a little chubby, fat little kid, always was the last one to be picked. And the thing that I had a voice inside of me always moving towards the things I could do and away from the things I didn't. I didn't judge myself. And I took a course in photography at 12 years old, said I could do this. And I went on the search for truth and to build a career. And every time I met or saw or listened to a lecturer who was a great photographer doing something different, I asked him how he did it. And then when I started doing better as a photographer, I went to sales trainers and I learned how to sell my product. And then I went to motivational speakers and people who told me how I could work on myself, and I listened to their advice. And I've been on the search for truth and happiness my whole life.
Now, you grew up here in Michigan, is that right?
Yeah, I grew up in Michigan. I went to Mumford High School. My counselor at Mumford told me that I wasn't smart enough to get a college education, and I should find a trade.
Wait, you're joking? Your high school counselor told you that?
Right, and then my father told me that I had to go to college. He says, you're going to be a teacher in the daytime, go to law school at night. And I says, well, listen, I don't know this counselor very well, but I better listen to my father. Went to Highland Park Junior College, then went to the College of Education at Wayne and got into Detroit College of Law. And then I said, why should I listen to what my mommy and daddy want? I like this photography. And then after 5 years of teaching, I started my mission to be the best photographer I could possibly be.
From what you're saying, it doesn't sound like you were facing that much fear and doubt. How pervasive was that for you then?
Well, as I said, I focused on what I could do. If I couldn't do the sports, and I was very poor at math, and I was poor at reading and writing, I concentrated on doing what I could do. And since the girls they weren't thrilled with my looks and my personality, as a photographer with a camera in my hand, I found out, well, let me take your picture. And every young lady wanted to get their picture taken, so that was my excuse to be with girls. And then I made it my career choice to find out how to make every woman that came in front of my camera beautiful, and I started my career in photography. In
50 years, right, as a photographer, what? That must have changed then when technology shifted, right? When everyone has a camera on their phone now. How are you able to adapt to that?
Well, the biggest problem with that is this. So I had a great run. People flew me all over the United States to do family pictures, Hawaii, Cancun, Mexico, Aspen. I took pictures of people dog sledding, and I thought that this would be a run that would never end. And a few years ago, this generation sort of said, well, we can do our own pictures. We don't need you. I fumbled around, and then I said, let me look back at all the lessons I learned in my life and reinvent myself. And I started writing down the laws, Gary Miller's laws of success. And then people said, well, I love these laws that you come up with every day. Why don't you put it in a book form? They told me I couldn't write, but I sat down every day for 2 to 3 hours with a blank sheet of paper, and boom, in a couple of years, I had a book.
You had the book, and the book, again, titled Go to War Against Fear and Doubt. What's the number one law, then, would you say, for you in the book?
The number one law is dream big dreams, and as you dream, so you shall become, but you only receive that which you earn, no more, no less, which means this: the thing that separates a mediocre person from a great person is that a great person has great dreams. And when you have a goal, every person that you meet and everything that you hear is there to take you where your dream is, but the only way you can recognize this person is by having a goal. But
did you have a mentor of some kind, would you say?
So I had a series of mentors. There were great photographers. I found out that if you want advice, you go to an expert. So all along my trip, I met world-class photographers who were willing to share their secrets, take the time to explain to me. I mean, when you go to a person who isn't doing what you want to do, they don't always bring you on track. So I believe that if you want the true roadmap to success, go to someone who's an expert, take them a coffee or lunch, and they'll share their secrets with you.
Now, along the way, did you have moments where your business and your career, you weren't sure if you were going to actually be able to make it?
I had a time where I came up with a formula that was against everybody, the way everybody did things in the world. It was totally people have these things called proofs. They put a little deposit on proofs. The people get the proofs and have all your images, and then they don't want to come back to make an order.
They're the little tiny pictures, right? The proofs.
Right, little tiny. So I decided that I wouldn't give a proof anymore. I would make a price that I thought was fair, and they would pick from finished product, and all of a sudden my phone stopped ringing, and I was out of business. And when the sky is the darkest, that's when the stars come out. And it so happened that I bought all this audio-visual equipment where you could put music to slides and do these love stories. I didn't know how to I bought the equipment because I took a seminar. I didn't know how to run it. There was a young guy who worked for me. He just finished learning how to do this at Lawrence Tech. He said, I'll do it. And all of a sudden I created the Gary Miller love story. And all of a sudden the magic happened. People were flying me all over the world to create pictures that moved to music. So I would go to their web. I would go. They'd fly me somewhere.
You have like slides along with the music and so on, and it'd be like a show.
Right, and we'd go to New York. Any person who walked in my studio, I said, we've been here. Where would you like to take me? And they took me all over the world.
Yeah. Anyone hoping to become a photographer nowadays, what's the likelihood of succeeding today?
Well, the livelihood succeeding is this. If you feel you're a winner, if you feel you can do it, if it's your passion, it's something that you love, you're going to make it. If it's something that you can't do what you want to do in life just for money, you have to do it because you love it. And if you love it enough and you work at being the best, you're going to hit it out of the park, no matter what your profession is.
That's certainly on the positive end. But you say all fear is imaginary. What does that really mean?
It really means this, that when you are faced with a fear, if I'm afraid of water and you're not afraid of water, and I'm afraid of heights and you're not, and we have a group of people and everybody has a different fear, who's right and who's wrong? And what I found out in life is that when I turned to see the thing I feared, when I started to face it, it started to disappear. And when I conquered that fear, it was the next step to success. I was afraid of horses, and for some reason my father gave me a horseshoe ring. Everybody said, do you have a horse? I said, I'm afraid of horses. I can't afford horses. And then one day a person came into my studio, and he had horses, and he took me out for a ride on a place that rented and sold horses. And before I got off the horse, I owned it, and now I live out in the country and have 3 horses, and found out, even though I was afraid of it at first, it was the most unbelievable hobby and pleasure that I ever had in my life.
Now, I guess you're retired now, is that right?
I beg your pardon?
Are you retired at this point? Or?
Well, I'm not retired. I just did a big wedding in South Beach, Florida. So the cream of the crop, the people who want to look beautiful, the people who know what they want are still using me as a photographer. But now I'm going to grade schools, high schools, colleges, and businesses, and showing them that you become what you think about. You can orchestrate whatever you want to happen in your life by reading the things that you want to come into your life. You become what you think about, and whatever you believe to be true in your life happens. And so I'm passing the message. I think it's an obligation of the last generation to share all their lessons with the next one and keep them from making the same mistakes. So my job right now is to tell people, go with their dreams, become the best. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you certainly did. What's the biggest mistake you think you made along the way?
The biggest mistake I ever made along the line was not thinking that I could do whatever I wanted to do. Someone flew me to a birthday party in Cancun, Mexico, and most of the guests were multimillionaires. They flew their own jets there, and I wanted to find out what their secret was. Their secret was that they asked for a tremendous amount and got a tremendous amount. So my biggest mistake was not going for enough gusto, for not thinking bigger, and even being greater than I am.
It's a matter of what you ask for. But you say you have to earn it too, right? It's not just a matter of imagining it. You have to work for it.
So your imagination brings the opportunity. What do they say? Luck is when preparedness meets opportunity. So if you spend your life preparing yourself to be a great communicator, to find out, business is just basically asking people what they want and giving them what they want. Anything you choose to do in life, just get it. If you help, you can get anything in life you want if you just help enough people in life get what they want, and that's the secret, the magic of becoming wealthy.
Gary Miller, the book, Go to War Against Fear and Doubt. Can people find you online, Gary?
Yeah, all they do is go to my website, gotowarthebook.com, and they can get a Kindle, they can get a PDF, or they can buy an autographed hard copy. I'm the only author that has his website and his personal phone number on the back, and they can always call me for a helping hand.
There it is, Gary Miller. The website, gotowarthebook.com. Gary, thanks.
Yes.
Enjoyed it. Let's talk again.